Hello and welcome to another episode of Ewell Acres. Today we're going to continue on talking about our soil amendment nutrients by talking about vermicomposting or worm poop and how it can better improve your garden. Let's get started. Before we jump into our main subject, we'd like to, if you're getting value out of these videos, if you like what we're doing, please don't forget to subscribe, click on that bell for notifications, so that way you can continue to get updates on new videos that we have coming out all the time. So when you're looking at this soil amendment called vermicompost, it's just a fancy way of saying worm poop. Now, there are many different types of manures out there. There's cow, there's steer, there's rabbit, there's horse. There are many different varieties. Worm is just another form of that. But it's actually a higher form because what you're doing is an animal is going to take that food, digest it, and drop it out. But a worm, they're not going to eat stuff that is already actively growing. They're going to take material that's already started the breaking down process. So it's essentially going to be double composting or double cycling that. So it's not going to be in a form of a nutrient that is much more readily available for the plant to be able to uptake. Aside from that, there's even a secondary great benefit from using vermicompost or worm poop. Because of the rumen and the biological activity inside the worm, the poop itself has a high microbial beneficial activity as associated with it, as well as humic acid. And those two combined help to drastically improve the beneficial microbial bacteria that you have in your soil, even further giving benefit to your soils, expanding that soil profile, allowing water and air to better flow through, and so it's going to help reduce the compaction of your soils. Now, there are many ways how you can go about acquiring vermicompost. There are some guys that like to make it themselves or in their home worm bins, which go ahead and check out our video on that. It is relatively easy. The vast majority of most of the vermicompost that is commercially available comes from worm farms. And because there is a growing interest in vermicomposting, it is making it so it is a lot easier to actually acquire. Not only can you get it at your nurseries, to your online sales, you can even also find it now on your big box stores. For my own local area, I can acquire it anywhere between $15 and $30 for a 25-pound bag. So yes, it's relatively expensive as far as fertilizers go, but it's nowhere near as expensive as it once was. And that is one of the great things about vermicomposting. Because you're taking worms, most prominently red wigglers or night crawlers, and you're recycling decomposed material, it can literally be done almost anywhere in the world, from a small backyard plastic bin to large-scale farming. Now, this vermicomposting nutrients is commonly used, like we mentioned before, as a high-grade nutrient fertilizer in adding it to your vegetables, and it most prominently is used as well within the cannabis industry. But I personally love using it for my herbs as well as my vegetables. I find it has a tremendously great benefit in adding it to it. Now, when you go to add this vermicompost to your pot, to your grow beds, or even just your regular garden itself, the great thing about this is a little bit goes a long way. You only need about a quarter to a half cup per 100 square feet. And if you want to further utilize it, if you're making your own worm bins, you can do what's called making vermicompost tea, where you actually take a bucket of water, take a small satchel of the vermicompost, stick it in a nylon sack or something else with perforated edges, and dunk it in the water for a period of 24 hours. And that will slowly leach into the soil water to help improve it. So you can make a liquid, lower grade fertilizer to stretch it even further and use it multiple times. Now, we talked about some of the benefits of this vermicompost. What are the actual nutrients that are encased in vermicompost? Now, that will vary based on the food source of the worms and how hot or cold it is and how actively things are broken down. But on average, you're going to be looking at different percentages of iron, calcium, sulfur, nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, and potassium. Aside from those added nutrients, like we mentioned before, you also have the great added benefit of having the humic acid and beneficial bacteria, which is in almost a best benefit in and of itself to help include that process. Another one of the great benefits of having vermicompost is if it's from a high quality source, your pH is going to be at about 7 neutral. So it's not going to drastically shift up or down for your nutrients, which is another added great benefit. Now, we've already talked a great significant amount about the pros. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the cons of vermicompost. Now, one of the cons is you are dealing with a live animal in how you're sourcing this. And so it is going to be a breathable material. If you just let the poop dry out in a shed somewhere, then over time, that beneficial microbial benefits of this can die. So you want to use it on a relatively soon basis after you do it, or at least keep it moist and able to breathe while you're using it, because that microbial beneficial bacteria can potentially die. Likewise, you are dealing with live worms, and so there is a process that generally takes, on average, 6 to 8 months for this to be ready until you get a workable product. But if you go in stages, several cycles, you can plan for that to always have a continuous cycle of material that is available to use. Now, we already talked a little bit about, on average, for my area in spring of 2021, it costing about $20 to $30 for a 25-pound bag of vermicompost. Well, let's say you want to get a tremendously large amount. If you can afford it and you can find a source that's in bulk, in my area, I've been able to locate it in anywhere between 20 to 25 cents per pound, but on average, you're going to have to be purchasing hundreds, if not thousands of pounds to be able to get that amount of purchase per pound if you are purchasing it in bulk. What many people have done in recent years is they've started to make their own worm bins so that way they can have a small, tremendous amount in their own growing boxes to make it a little bit more accessible for them in their home gardens. This has been some of the different benefits and why I like vermicompost and how the benefits can be in your own soil as you add them. So now, let's hear your thoughts. Do you like vermicompost as an organic, nutrient, great material to go ahead and do it? Do you like others? What's your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. And let me just say, on a side note, when people just say vermicompost, they automatically think that all vermicompost is equal. It's not. Because it is a food source, it has different values based on what the food source the worms are eating. If they're just eating junk plastic mail, then that vermicompost is going to be of a lower quality. If they're going to be eating what I like to call a double composted, where you do a hot compost of some really great high quality material, and then you do a cold compost of the worms a little bit later on. So based on what the source of what the worms are eating can greatly have a benefit of how high quality your vermicompost is. So if you're not making it yourself, find a great worm farm or come from a great high quality source, and by all means add it to your garden. A little bit goes a long way, and it's going to help to make your vegetables thrive. Once again, let us know in the comments below. Do you like vermicompost? Do you not? Are there other sources of fertilizer that you prefer? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining us today as we look at vermicomposting and the great benefits of it and how it can be used in your garden. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're gaining value out of these videos, please don't forget to subscribe, click on that bell for notifications, and we look forward to seeing you next time.